The man only touched a vending machine, but in the next second, he was caught in a violent explosion, and everyone on the platform was dragged into the disaster with him. What was even more terrifying was that the killer had turned all of Tokyo into his own killing ground. Underground passages, shopping streets, parks, and even crime scenes the police were still investigating, all had timed bombs planted inside them. After a series of violent explosions, many people lost their lives on the spot. And the person behind all of this was not some international terrorist, but a homeless man you would never even bother to look at twice. Today, I'm bringing you a newly released Japanese film called Bomb, and the story opens with an explosive scene right away. A fast-talking video suddenly goes viral across the internet.
不老者は殺します。臭いからです。妊婦さんは殺します。面積が広いからです。フェミニストは殺します。生意気だからです。外国人は殺します。あいつらみんなギャングかスパイです。前科者は殺します。どうせ再犯するからです。老人は殺します。鬱陶しいからです。独身貴族は殺します。子孫を増やす気がないからです。同じ理由で3人家族は殺します。努力が足りないからです。幸せいっぱいの家族もです。不幸は分かち合うべきだからです。金持ちは殺します。妬ましいからです。人権弁護士は殺します。
At first, everyone treats the man in the video like a complete joke, never realizing that in the time left, the number of Japanese people he plans to take down may be even higher than the number of likes viewers are about to leave. The man's name is Tagasaku Suzuki, and he is detained by the police after causing trouble while drunk. Detective Todoroki has seen far too many people like him, people who seem to have completely given up on life. And just as he is about to end the interrogation, Suzuki's expression suddenly changes.
なんだろう、事件が起こる気配です。
Todoroki assumes he is just talking nonsense, but the moment those words leave his mouth, a deafening explosion erupts in the Akihabara shopping district. Storefronts are blown apart on the spot, shattered glass rains down on the crowd like a storm, and the scene is filled with heavy casualties. On the surface, it looks like Todoroki is interrogating a suspect, but in reality, he has been led around by Suzuki from the very beginning.
私の霊感じゃ、ここから3回、次は1時間後に爆発します。
And the rhythm of the entire incident has been firmly controlled by Suzuki. This explosion infuriates the higher-ups, and they immediately give Todoroki an ultimatum, ordering him to make Suzuki talk before the next explosion happens. Todoroki tries to draw out clues through indirect questioning, but Suzuki gives him no chance at all, constantly throwing strange riddles at him while claiming he has supernatural powers. The two of them are not even communicating on the same wavelength, each talking past the other, and the atmosphere becomes extremely awkward. Everyone still clings to a bit of hope, believing the Akihabara explosion may have been nothing more than an accident. But 1 hour later, the moment the web page refreshes, another explosion takes place near Yasukuni Shrine, and dozens of people who came to pay their respects lose their lives on the spot. The top brass completely panics, immediately removes Todoroki from the case, and sends in the seasoned Kayamizu and the genius detective Wright to take over and negotiate with Suzuki. Meanwhile, Suzuki grows bored while waiting for the interrogation and suddenly starts telling the officers present about his past. He talks about his school days, when a beautiful girl he secretly admired was found dead in the wilderness on a snowy day, in an extremely tragic state. Back then, the police once wrongfully suspected him of being the killer, and he was only cleared after the real culprit was caught. He tells this story as a warning to the police, telling them not to judge people by appearances. But no one expects that this unremarkable officer in front of him is also about to step into the trap he carefully prepared. Soon, Kayamizu officially begins his battle of minds with Suzuki. Kayamizu, who understands human nature deeply, follows Suzuki's unstable rhythm and plays along with a question-and-answer game called the Heart of the Nine Tails. The rules are simple. Suzuki asks 9 questions. Kayamizu answers honestly, and once the questions are over, Suzuki claims he will be able to see through Kayamizu's heart. Facing the first 3 questions, Kayamizu responds calmly, answering flawlessly without revealing even the slightest weakness. But when the 4th question arrives, Suzuki suddenly claps his hands hard and says a name that makes everyone in the room feel like they have stopped breathing.
その人は長谷部 優子さんですか？
The moment the name is spoken, the air in the interrogation room freezes, and Kayamizu's face turns pale. That person was once a promising elite officer in the police force, someone who had solved countless cases, treated others kindly, and carried himself with a strong sense of justice, but no one knew that he had a disturbing obsession at crime scenes. After the scandal was exposed, he was completely swallowed by public opinion, and in the end, unable to bear the pressure, he chose to end his life on the train tracks. His death left his entire family with massive compensation payments and an unforgivable stain on their name. His wife, Asuka Hasebi, took their daughter Mio and their son Tatsuma, and hid inside a rundown apartment near the tracks, living like rats in a drain, full of despair and humiliation. Why would Suzuki suddenly bring up Hasebi? What kind of connection does he have with the Hasebi family? The sharp-minded Kayamizu also notices something strange at this moment.
手先がきれいに揃ってます。プロにきちんとしてもらったのでは？
だったら何です？何かおかしいですか？
The homeless man in front of him has been wandering the streets for years and looks filthy all over, yet his hair is neatly trimmed, clearly done by a professional hairstylist. He suddenly remembers that Hasebi's wife, Asuka Hasebi, happens to be a hairstylist. Seeing that Kayamizu was about to guess the truth, Suzuki pretends he needs to use the bathroom and temporarily leaves the interrogation room. The police use the chance to investigate Suzuki's identity across the entire city, but after visiting several streets, they still find nothing. The locals are either cold and dismissive, or they secretly film and leak information for online attention, showing no real concern for the terrible explosion cases. Perhaps the coldness that exists everywhere in this city is the real root that pushed Suzuki toward the extreme step by step. Immediately after that, Suzuki throws out the eighth riddle.
ミノタウロスとかの方が良くないですか？ところで日本にも体が牛で顔が人間の化け物がいますね。
鈴木さん。清宮さん。
This part is not only difficult for local viewers to understand, even Kayamizu was completely confused after hearing it, but the genius detective Reich notices something unusual in it, quickly breaks down the Japanese katakana, deciphers the key clue, and identifies the target as a newspaper distribution point in Kidenshita. With the explosion set for 4 a.m., the police rush to the scene, and sure enough, beneath a newspaper delivery motorcycle, they find a timed bomb. Patrol Officer Yabuki makes a split-second decision, jumps onto the motorcycle, and races away, facing danger at every turn as if he is racing against death itself. At the final moment before the bomb is about to go off, he throws the motorcycle with all his strength toward an empty area by the roadside, barely stopping another tragedy from happening. Inside the interrogation room, Suzuki sits like an elegant Grim Reaper, calmly eating a sandwich while watching the outside world fall into panic. But this is only the appetizer, because the real killing move is still waiting behind it. After that, he gives another clue pointing to Yoyogi Park, using the rat and the horse from the 12 zodiac signs to hint at two attack targets. The rat represents the children in a kindergarten, and the horse represents the homeless people receiving relief food at the south gate of the park. With bombs planted at both locations, with limited police manpower, there is no way to protect both places at the same time. And Kayamizu was forced into a painful choice. Should he save the children, or save the homeless? As a police officer, and also as a father, he instinctively chooses to evacuate the kindergarten first. And it is exactly this decision that leads to a violent explosion in Yoyogi Park, where more than 30 homeless people and volunteers at the scene are torn apart by the blast. Afterward, Suzuki reaches out a finger with a provocative expression and asks his final question.
ほっとしていますか？
Kayamizu can no longer suppress his anger and snaps Suzuki's finger. At this point, all 9 questions are over, and Suzuki has completed his final test of Kayamizu. Kayamizu's heart is twisted, just like the finger that was broken.
これがあなたの心の形です。
The first round of confrontation ends in a crushing defeat for the police, landing a heavy slap across the faces of everyone who claims to stand for justice, and no one can refute it. Seeing Kayamizu on the verge of a mental breakdown, no longer daring to look him in the eye, Reich steps forward and takes over the confrontation with Suzuki. At the same time, Patrol officers Yabuki and Kuda follow the address saved in Suzuki's phone and find an abandoned guest house. The moment they push open the door, a strange mixed odor rushes toward them, and the floor is covered with traces of homeless people having lived there. When they pull away the coverings inside the room, they discover something even more hidden inside. Anyone familiar with explosive devices can tell at a glance that the site is filled with all kinds of experimental tools and chemical residue, all materials used to make bombs. It is obvious that this place is a hidden bomb-making hideout. Following the dark red bloodstains on the floor, the officers move forward and unexpectedly find an apology video left behind by the officer Hasabi, who ended his own life. In the video, Hasabi repeatedly apologizes, saying he failed his wife and children. The killer plays this video on a loop, which proves that he is not simply committing evil out of madness. At its core, this indiscriminate bombing attack against Tokyo was revenge on behalf of Hasabi against a cold and indifferent society. What is the real truth? The story continues. Meanwhile, Todoroki learns from Hasabi's wife, Asuka Hasabi, that after her husband's scandal was exposed, he completely collapsed, took the initiative to ask for a divorce, and even took all the blame on himself. After their daughter learned the truth, her heart was filled with resistance and disgust, while their son Tatsuma suffered massive online attacks. And in the end, unable to bear the humiliation, he ran away from home. When asked about her son Tatsuma's whereabouts, Asuka Hasabi remains vague, but inside the abandoned guest house, Yabuki discovers a body that appears to be Tatsuma. Just as he steps forward to check it, he accidentally triggers a hidden bomb. In that critical moment, he tries to tell Kuda beside him to evacuate immediately, but she misunderstands what he means. Kuda narrowly survives, but Yabuki is badly injured, and both of his legs are lost in the explosion. When the devastating news reaches the police station, his colleagues are overwhelmed with grief and curse Suzuki in rage. Yabuki, who lost both legs, was his old classmate and close friend. Back then, in order to help his friend earn a chance to make a contribution, he had extracted this address from Suzuki's mouth. Never imagining that it was a trap carefully set by Suzuki, Suzuki first pretends he wants to reveal the truth, then immediately denies everything, claiming that the story about the school beauty was all just a joke, showing how cunning, sinister, and completely inhuman he truly is. Just when the police are at a complete loss, another shocking piece of news arrives. A video Suzuki scheduled to be posted in advance shoots to the top of the trending list, and in the video, he continues making extreme statements, threatening to take down all Japanese people. But at the end of the video, his tone suddenly changes, and he claims that he has been hypnotized and forced by someone else, and that his memories are about to be erased. Ordinary people simply treat it as another insane performance by a madman, but Kuda, the surviving female officer, burns with rage and storms straight into the interrogation room, wanting to fight Suzuki with everything she has. Suzuki's bizarre behavior leaves everyone present stunned. Kuda trembles with anger, her reason completely collapsing, and she reaches for the gun at her waist, wanting to confront Suzuki directly, but fortunately, the officers around her stop her in time. Watching Kuda struggle desperately, Suzuki is fully immersed in the pleasure of controlling other people's emotions, believing his plan is flawless. But he does not realize that Todoroki has already launched a deeper investigation into the missing Tatsuma. According to one of Tatsuma's friends, he once shared an apartment with Tatsuma and 3 others, and the group often discussed extremist ideas. But because their personalities did not match, the friend eventually chose to move out. When the police arrive at the shared apartment to investigate, they discover 2 male bodies that have already badly decomposed. After confirming their identities, the 2 dead men turn out to be the newspaper delivery worker from Kudinshita and the worker near the vending machine, the very accomplices who helped Suzuki plant the bombs. Todoroki immediately tells Reich about the clue, and Reich suddenly understands everything.
累計です。爆発物は自販機の中、飲料缶、ペットボトルの可能性があり。
The police immediately seal off every subway station in Tokyo and begin a thorough search, but the people rushing to work do not care about their own safety at all, because compared with the threat of an explosion, They are more afraid of being late for work and losing money from their paychecks. Crowds gather outside the police barricades, protesting and shouting, and with no other choice, the police are forced to lift the blockade. No one takes the earlier explosion warnings seriously, and everyone is only thinking about catching the subway and not being late. Then, at the very moment when the crowd inside the station reaches its peak, thick smoke erupts. A powerful blast wave throws the crowd violently to the ground, and the subway platform instantly becomes a living nightmare. Explosions go off one after another across Tokyo, without warning, and countless innocent people collapse on the spot, leaving the city with heavy casualties. The streets are filled with screams and bloodstains everywhere, and the entire city falls into a level of panic it has never seen before. At that moment, the final video is released online. In the video, Suzuki delivers a terrifying prediction. Once the video reaches 10 million views, the final bomb will be triggered, and at that point, there will be nowhere in Tokyo to hide, except the Metropolitan Police Department, and the only way to stop the explosion is to kill Suzuki himself. The same people who were mocking Suzuki earlier are now completely swallowed by fear, deleting their extreme comments one after another, rushing toward the Metropolitan Police Department for shelter, while others shout that Suzuki must pay for what he has done. Amid the chaotic crowd, Hasabe's wife, Asuka Hasabe, enters the Metropolitan Police Department with a mysterious package on her back. Out of respect for their past connection, the officers do not stop her too strictly. No one knows that inside her package is the final bomb Suzuki mentioned. At the same time, Reich and Todoroki finally piece together the full truth. No one could have imagined that this terror attack engulfing all of Tokyo began with one broken family. After Hasabe took his own life, Asuka Hasabe was unable to repay the massive debt, and she ended up living among groups of homeless people. Suzuki was also at the bottom of society, and seeing her alone and helpless, he often shared food with her and quietly looked after her. Two people abandoned by society leaned on each other and became the only support the other had. But tragedy struck again when Tatsuma, her son, suffered long-term online harassment, causing his heart to gradually twist. To avenge his father, who died with injustice surrounding him, he gathered accomplices to make bombs and decided to take revenge on all of society. In order to prevent the plan from being leaked, he coldly poisoned the two accomplices who helped plant the bombs. After Asuka Hasabe discovered what her son had done, she saw Tatsuma completely consumed by hatred, and in endless despair, she ended her own son's life with her own hands. The broken Asuka Hasabe confessed everything to Suzuki to protect the woman he loved. Suzuki carefully set up the shocking grand plan. He created a series of explosions, replaced the extreme videos Tatsuma had posted, faked the illusion that he himself had been hypnotized and forced, then destroyed Tatsuma's body with an explosion, erased every clue to his identity, and pinned all the crimes on the dead boy. After that, he deliberately got drunk and caused trouble so he would be arrested by the police, then used the identity of a deranged prophet to guide and manipulate the direction of the police investigation from beginning to end. With the truth revealed, Asuka Hasabe has nothing left in her heart but hatred and despair. She hates the police world for covering up the scandal and abandoning her husband, hates the cold and heartless society around her, and hates herself even more for killing her own son with her own hands. She takes out her phone and dials the detonation number, planning to die together with everyone there. However, the bomb does not explode, because the one Suzuki gave her was a fake bomb from the very beginning.
でもあんたは爆発させない。爆発させない、発見させない。そうすることで俺たちを永遠に閉じ込める。あんたのゲームの中に。
Suzuki seems extremely satisfied with the police's reasoning, because in this game, Reich still loses in the end. Asuka Hasabe wants to push all the blame onto Suzuki, but with the evidence currently available, the police have no way to convict him. As long as the final real bomb has not been found, Suzuki will always remain unbeatable. This film, Bomb, has never been just a simple crime thriller about police and criminals, because it tells the tragedy of a group of people at the bottom, pushed step by step into desperation by the system and by society's coldness. The police cover up a scandal, a happy family is shattered, a young man is completely changed by online attacks, A mother kills her own child in despair, and a homeless man lays out a shocking death game to protect the person he loves. Suzuki and Asuka Hasabi were never evil people at the beginning, but under endless blows and impossible despair, they were forced step by step into becoming the bombs that would explode society. And the real bomb has never only been hidden on some street or in some corner of Tokyo, because it has always been deeply rooted inside the heart of every person who has fallen into despair.